Welcome to Love Aurora, a weekly podcast report highlighting amazing people, organizations, and events that are making Aurora a better place to live. Here's your host, Gene Roncone.
Aurora Public Schools is the sixth largest school district in the state of Colorado, has over 40,000 students, 60 schools, and 5,000 employees. Well, in the next two episodes, we're going to be talking with the executive leader of that organization, the superintendent of Aurora Public Schools. His name is Rico Munn, and he has a clear understanding of our challenges and a big vision for the future. Superintendent Munn has had a distinguished career as an educator here in Colorado. He serves Governor Hickenlooper on the Board of Governors for the Colorado State University System, and he also serves on the Colorado State Board of Education. As a member of Governor Bill Ritter's cabinet, he served as the executive director of the Colorado Department of Higher Education, and he is also an attorney and a practical problem solver. Superintendent Munn, hey, thanks for joining us today. I know you're a busy guy.
Oh, Gene, thank you very much, and please call me Rico. Superintendent takes too long to say.
Okay, I'll do. I will do that. Well, listen, you've got a law degree. I imagine you get a lot of questions about that. You got two elementary kids?
I do, yeah.
You're going to need that law degree when they're teenagers.
I hope not.
I've got four of them, and at least to win arguments, you need a law degree with the teenagers. So you're well prepared.
Well, I think we're well on our way. Both of them have very active debate minds.
Well, listen, talk to me a little bit about the fact that, how did you get into education? I mean, what made you want to be an educator?
My undergraduate degree is in secondary education. I became a licensed teacher at that time, but so it was always an interest that I've had and a background that I've had. But I also had a passion and interest in pursuing a legal career. So I went on to law school and practiced there, but stayed active and involved in the education community, education policy, and education law off and on. Mm-hmm. When I thought about this position and thought about serving APS, I always thought of myself not as a non-traditional candidate, but as a hybrid candidate. Mm-hmm. I came to the table with a lot of background and experience in that area and wanted to apply some of the experience from my other career to this job.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to talk in this show kind of about you, about your personal perspective on education. And then next week, we're going to come back and really dive into the strategic plan that you and the Board of Education have put together. Some good stuff in there we want to talk about and kind of have you unpack for us. You have come in now, I want to remember, about 2 years. Are you pushing the 2-year mark here?
Well, this is my second school year.
Okay. So talk to me. You've been in now, boots on the ground. What do you like most about Aurora?
One of the things that I love about Aurora is its diversity. I had the opportunity to come from a family that had a military background, and so my father and my mother had both seen a lot of the world and had a lot of those experiences. And even though I didn't as a child, they had that background and instilled some of that interest in me. And then as I got into college, really, I had a chance to get involved in seeing the world and seeing the different way people lived. And so it's nice to be able to bring up my kids in a place where I can see that just going down the street. Right?
That's awesome.
Where they can have those experiences and they can have that richness in their lives.
We're going to talk a little bit next week about the diversity in the school system, but man, you hit the nail on the head. I think you've got 130 different cultures and 120 languages or something like that. We'll talk about that a little next week.
Sure.
But you go through these times, you've got meetings and you've got committee meetings. You have multiple constituencies that you're leading. Talk to me a little bit about the experiences you had. If you had to have one experience that you said was, as an educator, an unforgettable experience that has shaped your philosophy, what would that be? What's one thing that you'll always remember?
Well, I think of myself less as an educator per se, as more of an advocate. I think of myself as the chief advocate for 40,000 plus kids in this district. Mm-hmm. And that advocacy role includes fighting for what they really need to make a difference in their lives, which is that educational opportunity, which I see as a basic civil and human right for them. So for me, one of the most memorable moments so far was that first round of graduations I did last year, which is standing on the stage in front of all those proud family members and friends, and as those kids come across and get something they've worked so hard for and that their families have worked so hard for, those are moments that you really treasure, and that you also see it in the eyes of their staff, right?
Yeah.
Of the teachers who have worked so hard to help get them there.
That's neat.
Yeah.
That's neat. We've got 4 kids, so we've been to every graduation ceremony between them and their friends. And you know, I'm always amazed they're different. I mean, everyone is really different. And we've had our kids in different school districts in Aurora, and even the same district, they're not the same. So you guys put a lot of care into those kind of ceremonies. We talked a little about what you like about the city. You are now in your 2nd year leading a school district, diverse school district. What are 5 things that you are proud of about Aurora Public Schools? And some of those might be things that have come to you in the job that you've come to realize, or some of them might be things you knew before you got here. What are 5 things you're proud of about Aurora Public Schools?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'm proud and we're proud of our kids, of the students that we have. And we see the mountains that they climb, and we see the things that they conquer, and it's so exciting to see that. And I was at Rangeview High School this morning and going in some classes and seeing that, and seeing some of the hard work they were doing, and at Moravchik Middle School yesterday, and just that opportunity to be in the classroom and see that hard work is really something that makes me proud. Mm-hmm. In the same vein, I'm very proud of our staff, of the adults who put in those long hours and really come alongside those kids and help them figure out the challenges in their life, and not just the academic challenges, but the social challenges, the emotional challenges. And that's important work, and that's work that's difficult, and I'm very proud of that. And there are various subsets of that I could dive into, right? I'm very proud of the work that we see in our community coming around a lot of these students. We see it from the business community. I spent a lot of time with Kevin Hogan over at the Chamber, and with Wendy Mitchell at AEDC, and others who really step up and say, what can we do? How can we support you? And we really appreciate that. And it's nice to feel that and to have that connection. And I don't know if I've gone through 5 or not, but I mean, there's, there are a lot of things in the district that are exciting things that I am so proud of, and that it's nice to say that, once in a while that I'm the superintendent. It's nice to kind of have that ring to it, because of you're so proud of the work that's going on. Yeah.
I've listened to some of your interviews and read some of the stuff. One of the things I admire about you is your willingness to, to make your strength that, hey, we're gonna overcome some of these weaknesses. We're gonna address what's broken and fix it. We're gonna work on things. What are 3 things that are underperforming that you want to be part of your legacy to fix?
Well, I don't know about underperforming. I mean, we want to face our challenges head on, right? We want to recognize them and face them head on. So one of the things that we've done is we have set up what we've called differentiated support structures within the district, which is a way of identifying across all of our individual school buildings what are the risk factors between where we are and where we want to get to. And we've identified a set of 9 or 10 of those that, just from a research base, tell us that those are things that cause organizational instability. So, for example, when you have a high turnover population within your student body, when you have a lot of students who move in and out, that's a risk factor, right? And you need to figure out how to mitigate against that risk factor. If you have high discipline rates, or if you have an atmosphere where staff aren't as happy as they could be, those are all risk factors. And so we have set up a systematic way of identifying within each of our buildings what those risk factors are, and trying to take those on in a head-on way. Then in a larger sense, some of our system challenges is we're a rapidly growing district, which is a wonderful thing, but it's also a significant challenge. Now, this year we had 700 to 800 students show up that we weren't expecting, right? And they need a seat.
Yeah, it's almost a school, isn't it?
That's a whole school, right? Yeah. And so, and we're seeing that year over year. So we know that we are in the very near future going to have to figure out a way to either go to our community and ask for help in building more buildings, or perhaps look at other options and how we find space to continue to educate these kids in the appropriate kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, that's a lead to my next question. Was 5 years from now, you're on top of the flagpole. You're looking out and seeing things that the rest of us don't see. What do we need to be ready for? What do we need to be prepared for? Where's the puck going that we need to be prepared in 5 years in Aurora?
Oh, a hockey analogy. Let's see if I can keep up with that. I'm more a football guy. So.
Oh, you really? Awesome.
Looking ahead, we know that we need to get our kids, and that's not just Aurora, but across the country, in a place where they have a better set of applied skills. right? Not just the content knowledge, which is important, but the way to apply that information. As we move even faster into the information technology age, knowledge itself is easy to access, right? Everybody's got a smartphone. They can look up and get the raw information, but the application skill isn't something that you can substitute.
Okay.
And so really getting better at teaching kids that applied knowledge, that's sometimes identified as soft skills, or ways of understanding the context for the value of that knowledge is where we need to be and where we need to be better at.
Okay. Are we, how is the growth of the city affecting you guys? I mean, Aurora is growing fast. It's growing east. Now it's growing northeast. Are you guys able to keep up with that? You mentioned, new kids. Are these new kids in old parts of the city? They in new parts of the city? Talk to us about the growth projections.
Well, we have two growth centers. One is original Aurora, right? A lot of people moving up Colfax and into some of our housing there. And then also the new development that's happening east of E470 over there. And so both are growth centers. And we try to keep in regular contact with developers and see, what their pace is, what they're looking at, and understand that. But, as I indicated, the growth is happening rapidly. And so we are trying to keep up with that and figure out what our options are. And there's a mix of things that we've got to look at. We've got to look at whether we bring in more temporary mobiles, those kind of trailer park things that you see sometimes parked in buildings, whether we extend days so that you can do split schedules, whether we in some schools may have to go to year-round schedules in order to accommodate that growth. And then also, again, the possibility of looking at, do we have the funds? Can we go to the community and get the bond dollars to build new buildings?
Yeah. And man, I'll tell you, I'd love to do a show just on the funding of public education. I get frustrated. Everybody wants to give the impression they're helping you guys educate, and I think it's a whole nother issue. I think it hurts us in the long run. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because as you said, I love your analogy of you being a hybrid educator. What concerns you about public education in general right now? Not Aurora Public Schools. Sure. Public education in general.
Well, you mentioned my work with higher education in your introduction, and I've got this overarching concern which reaches to both K-12 and higher ed, in that in our society we seem to have been moving more to a place where we recognize education as a private good instead of a public good. We really, in this community, in this society, used to embrace the public good philosophy of education, K through P through 20, and more we're seeing people, say, well, that's your issue, or if you have kids, that's your issue, or have these just divided communities about these things. And that's a real risk in my mind, because we need to recognize that your child's education is just as important as my child's education if we want to have a strong society.
So it impacts the entire city, the whole culture of, Kevin Hogan was talking about that in a show a couple months ago with us, about how that strengthens the economy when we're able to have strong education on all levels. Funding education through taxes is complicated, and I want you to explain that in one sentence if you would. I wouldn't do that, but I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, because you have multiple constituencies. I mean, my goodness, I can't imagine. You've got parents, you've got students, you have tons of employees, you have a board of education. All these people need Rico Munn to please them, okay? And
there's a lot of disappointment all around.
You're just spreading the love, right? But if you could say anything to citizens, the citizens of Aurora, this growing city, about education and not worry about any kind of fallback, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd like to think I wouldn't say anything different than I say on a regular basis. We need your help. We need every member of the community to come around every one of our students and support them. I've always had this belief that public education is a community responsibility. Right? It is important that we invest collectively in each one of these students and feed into their lives. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. You can do that as a parent. You can do that as a business owner. You can do that as a community member. You can do that as a teacher. There's a lot of different ways to do that. But we need everybody doing their part to invest in that.
Yeah. You're one of the first educators that I've heard kind of say things in a simple way. I heard someone ask you, what is your job? And I thought to myself, oh, man, how is it? And you rattled off one short sentence. Do you remember what it was?
Well, my job is to accelerate learning for every APS student every day.
I love that. And so I heard a rumor about you, Rico, that you took that one step further, everybody from teachers to janitors to bus drivers, and want them to answer how they're doing that. Now, I might be not stating it the way that
Sure.
you did, but I heard you've gone on you're known to go on little tours and ask people to answer that question. How would you state that to a bus driver? What are you doing to do that, or how do you turn that around and apply that?
So when I came to the district, I asked everyone involved with the district, including our Board of Education, and as you said, down to our janitors and our teachers and principals, to complete what we call the unified job description, which is a 3-sentence job description. And the first sentence for all of us is the same, the one you just heard me say about accelerating learning for every student. The last sentence is the same for everybody, that my community needs me to do my job. And the second sentence is the difference, because we all have different ways that we fulfill that job. And we asked everybody to complete that, and then everybody has an expectation that it's posted in a place where they work. So,
Okay.
Whenever I'm somewhere, right, I look for them, right, because it interests me in understanding how they see them connecting to the job. And it's also important that we all understand that we all have that same job. So my job description, which is 3 sentences, goes, my job is to accelerate learning for every APS student every day. I do my job by making sure I have the right people doing the right work with the right resources in the right way. And my community needs me to do my job. And on a regular basis, if not a daily basis, I ask other people I come in contact with, what's your job? And it's my expectation that they know their job.
So what kind of look do you get from a bus driver when you step on a school bus, and ask him how he does his job?
Yeah, it depends. If they know it, they're excited. They're excited to tell me. Excited they know it. If they don't know it, there's a little stammering sometimes.
Well,
right?
I heard through the rumor mill that word spread real quick that everybody went home and learned their sentence because they didn't know when you were going to show up. But I just want to give you a shout out. I think that's awesome. I think that's cool that you're able to get down on the grassroots and talk to people about vision and make it applicable to them. This is not possible for you to sit down with every teacher. You got 5,000 employees. I don't know how many of them are teachers.
Sure.
Let's just say that you had a long summer and no schools in session, and you had the time to sit down at a Starbucks with every teacher one-on-one, and you only had 10 minutes. What would you say to those teachers?
Well, the first thing I would ask of them their job description, because for me that's an important piece of the conversation, because our folks have taken that seriously and have really spent time thinking about how they connect to that job, how they connect to the district, and that facilitates a lot of understanding for me about how they see themselves and what their role is and what their challenges are. And so that really would be the basis of the conversation. Somewhere along the way, I would say thank you. I asked them to do a very difficult job, and it's important that I say thank you along the way. And then somewhere along the way, probably as we wrap up, I would want to know what else can I do to support them. And I would hope that I can do whatever they're going to ask me. But it's important that from as many different perspectives as possible, I get an understanding of where do people need that support, where do they need that help. It goes back to being an advocate, right? You can't be an advocate if you don't understand what the needs are.
Absolutely. You guys have done a fantastic job. We're very involved in urban Aurora. One of the elementary schools there is making a great turnaround, Crawford Elementary. I think they had the highest percentage of increase. I don't know the exact terminology of elementary schools in the city, but there's some folks that are in the darkest, hardest places of the city. These teachers are every day doing a great job making a difference in these students' lives, and appreciate the kind of leadership that you're providing in that area. How can the normal community member who's listening to our podcast, how can they help?
the normal community member, but I'm never sure what that term means.
Yeah.
Here's
the thing. This is a smartphone podcast. We got thousands of listeners, but they're listening to this on their smartphone. They're on their way to work. They're on their break. They're walking, exercising, listening to this on their phone. That person that's walking right now in their neighborhood on the sidewalks, what can they do to help Aurora Public Schools?
Well, I think there's three things, and they're both passive and active, right? One is it's always helpful for people to stay informed about the issues because, oftentimes, whether you see it at the ballot or whether you see it just in general conversation, there's a misunderstanding about the work that we're doing, how well we're doing that work, what our challenges are, and what's happening as it relates to the broader education world. You see a lot of debate around the Common Core and PARC and things like that. And there's a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation around those things. But there's also some legitimate concerns.
Okay.
But you want people to really be informed in that so that the conversation really focuses on the things that matter. The second thing is we always are excited to have more caring adults in contact with our kids, right? Coming into our buildings. We have our Readers Are Leaders program. We have various programs at different schools where people can come in. Sometimes it's for an hour, or sometimes it's for the whole school year, but to come alongside our kids and our staff and help support the actual on-the-ground work.
Okay.
And then I think the third thing is, as we do, our due diligence around the work that we need to do to determine how we address some of our financial issues, be it related to our buildings or be it related to our technology, we ask for people's support. We ask to support in the work that we're doing. Yeah.
And you're talking ballot measures there? Is that what you're referring to, buildings?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, listen, man, I want to thank you for joining us in this first part of the podcast. You're a busy man, and I really appreciate that you're carving out time to let the people kind of see the guy behind the job description and what makes you tick. So thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, folks, that's about all the time we have in this episode. Be sure to join us next week as Superintendent Munn unveils their new 2020 strategy. We're going to break it down, make it practical for you. You're going to get a glimpse into where they're heading up to 2020. So up until then, there's a lot of great folks making a big difference in Aurora Public Schools. We'll talk more next week.
You've been listening to the Love Aurora podcast. To get a text notification and link for our next broadcast, text the word Aurora to 74574. That's Aurora to 74574. You can also check out past episodes or recommend organizations at www.loveaurora.org. Thanks for listening.